A lot of new stuff is out now, and some new stuff is on its way. We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of the Geek Watch Podcast.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 167 of the Geek Watch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
There was a lot on our plate for this week.
Yep.
And a lot to see, and I wanted to ask you, first of all, because I know you're a big Hocus Pocus fan. You've seen the second movie.
Yes.
So, tell me, what'd you think?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've heard people on both sides of it and people not liking it or it was corny. I'm like, then obviously you didn't see the first one. That it was perfectly on par with the first movie, and the nostalgia factor was great. The music was so much fun, like it always was, and I absolutely enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. It was good.
So, do you think we're getting a 3?
That's what it was hinted at.
Yeah,
yes,
I did
it
hear
was hinted at. And with everything at Walmart, like coloring books and jewelry and everything, they have redesigned and rebranded the Sanderson sisters. It almost looks as if it were an animated series. So I don't think that they would let this go. That was one of the complaints, or this is just a cash grab for Disney. And I'm thinking, what isn't a cash grab? Every movie is to make money. I mean, no one just makes a movie.
Not at all. Except maybe at the very beginning when it was like, oh my God, they're projecting a picture of a train on a screen that's moving. Holy cow, that's incredible.
Witchcraft.
Exactly. But yeah, I've been hearing, like you said, both sides of it. And of course, if you're a fan of Spirit's Halloween stores,
yes, then
you know that there is always going to be that Hocus Pocus display.
Oh, yeah.
They do it every single year. And so obviously there was definitely a demand for a new movie, and anything that's possibly can have a sequel done at this point is being done.
And all the actors, Bette Midler talked about, I was always jealous of people who got to do franchises and got to play the same character over and over again. So it was good. The new songs were The Witches Are Back, based on The Bitch Is Back by Elton John, and Blondie's One Way or Another. And it was really cute, really simple choreography. There was an interview with Doug Jones, who is he's everything with makeup,
Right.
You've seen, that's him. Pale Man and the Fawn and Gill Man. I don't know if they called him Gill Man in Shape of Water, but Fish Man in Shape of Water and Abe Sapien. And he talked about putting on the makeup, and then it was like 20 years it just disappeared. And because his bone structure hadn't changed or anything, so he puts on the makeup and he looks the exact same.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a few more lines in this one, of course, but it was good. I really enjoyed it, and I think this whole generation watching it would really enjoy it. There was fun, cute effects, dance numbers, callbacks to the original, and it was adorable. There was actually a scene where everyone's in costume, and there are people dressed up as Gary and Penny Marshall's characters from the first movie. The devil, and then Penny Marshall had the rollers in her hair, so that was really cute. So fun callbacks. It was a fun time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. And I figure that'll also, people who may have not seen the first one now may go back and to check it out.
Definitely, yeah.
So,
revisit it
and we may,
catch all.
and again, we may see a part 3. There's been a lot of hints about that, and I'm sure if there's a buck to be made doing it, they're going to be Disney will be more than happy to crank out a third one.
Definitely, a lot of interviews have been done with the prior actors, like the child actors from the first one did not reappear because of scheduling conflicts, so they had to rework it, and so this actor couldn't make it, so they couldn't do this storyline with them, and this actor couldn't make it at this time, and then COVID hit, and I think the nostalgia fans and the current fans are really going to want to see those characters again. We want Max, we want Danny. Even if we can somehow get Thackeray Binks back as an older ghost, he's 20 years older, but we would love to see him somehow. They could make it work. It's a fantasy. No matter what, they'll be able to find a way to bring him back. So
Yeah, I would definitely think so. There's been some stuff in the news I wanted to pick up really quickly that I found interesting because we were talking about actors coming back. I don't know if you saw this article, But James Earl Jones has retired as the voice of Darth Vader.
Yeah, man, that's a whole.
Here's what's weird
beautiful
about
career.
this. Yeah, here's what's weird about this is because I saw Obi-Wan and I was like, oh, this was it. This was the last time that James Earl Jones is going to be doing the voice, and then discovered no, it's not. It wasn't his voice. It wasn't James Earl Jones.
Was it not?
It was AI, and that's what it's going to be from now on. Is that the technology is so great now that you can literally just type into a computer and James Earl Jones's voice as Darth Vader, and
deep
all
fakes.
Yeah, deep fakes exactly. And I had no idea, but yeah, all the voice acting for Darth Vader was done by AI.
Wow.
Every bit of it. And I had no idea. And I think one of the reasons why they probably didn't talk about it too much at that point, I figured they knew they were going to announce that James Earl Jones was going to retire. And people were like, what are we going to do? And now that we've had Obi-Wan and it was AI and nobody realized it, people are going to be like, okay.
It's better. Okay, then I guess.
Okay, we didn't catch that it wasn't him, so.
Now, I have heard, I don't know where I read it or if it's true or not, that Bruce Willis sold his images so that they could recreate him in CGI and they could motion capture him so that his image could still make movies.
Yes, I had heard that too,
Okay.
and I did see some test footage of something that was a Bruce Willis deep fake. But as it turns out, no, that he didn't sell nothing to nobody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a rumor.
Yeah, he didn't sell it, but people have been doing it.
Yeah.
But he would have probably been like the first actor to do something like that. But we're already at the point now where we're having virtual actors. Obviously, Rogue One, we had a completely digital performance in that, couple of them actually. But one character that had at that point had completely passed away, and and another one that they de-aged. But so this is getting to be like
commonplace.
It's commonplace, but a little weird. I remember years ago reading Omni magazine and this idea of using dead actors, but they basically took actors' bodies and turned them into animatronics. So it was like really
the Disney Hall of Presidents.
Yeah, something like that. So I would prefer computers, obviously, but it was a pretty morbid, messed up thing. But it was supposed to be the double whammy. It's like they're animating corpses with animatronics, but they're also basically using actors forever. And that was the shock. It's like nobody would ever do that either. But yeah, we do. We're going to do that now. But going back to hey, let's create something and not make any money out of it. What's up with the BBC?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything.
Well, that's the problem.
Okay.
Because the rumor is, because we've been talking about the centennial for Doctor Who, the centennial is going to be 100 years of the BBC.
All right.
And they want, obviously, part of the celebration, they're going to want to air Doctor Who, which is probably the most popular program the BBC ever produced. And that's the theory. And so the centennial is going to be on the 22nd, 23rd, around that area. And the theory is right now, that's when they're going to air this episode of Doctor Who and Jodie Whittaker's regeneration scene. But there's been no announcement.
Okay. At
all. So unless they're not planning on airing it during the centennial, they got 2 weeks, and we've heard nothing about this. They haven't said yay or nay. And I don't understand the marketing of that. What do they expect? We're just going to spring it on you as a surprise? Is that what, Even BBC America, they're like, they don't know. They're not even telling. They didn't tell BBC America. There's no real indication about when this is coming out. And I'm worried. I'm really worried about this. It's like, why? At least now, give people an idea about a date. It's not like that they're in post-production. Everything's filmed, shot, edited. It's ready to go whenever. Why don't you? I don't really understand it. I don't. And it's weird. But going to something else that we do know is happening in the Marvel front, did you hear about Armor Wars? Do you know about this story?
I don't think so, no.
You may be aware that Armor Wars, of course, is starring Rhodey.
Okay.
He's going to be investigating leaks at Stark Industries and where Stark's technology has been stolen. And so he's going to go and steal it back. And Don Cheadle, he'll be the lead on this, obviously, as Rhodey. But Disney has decided, instead of making it a TV series, let's do a movie.
Huh, okay.
So it's going to be a 2-hour movie that'll be in the theaters, which I find interesting for a few reasons. One, now you're seeing them steering things back into the theaters. And so they've decided, hey, let's make this into a movie. Let's give it a big theater production, which for Don Cheadle has to be good.
Yeah.
He has to love that because he's going to be a starring vehicle in a movie. But it also, to me, is an expression that they are kind of leaning away from the TV series, because it is possible that they looked at the script and was like, this would make a great 2-hour movie, but like a 10-episode series, it might be a little bloated. And so every story has its length. And the thing about TV, of course, is that you get more time to tell the story, but sometimes the story doesn't need that much room and it'll just drag otherwise. And it's going to be a good deal for movie theaters because things aren't back to normal and we're not getting the big rush of everything in. But it is something that is going to give them the opportunity to get people back into the theaters.
Okay.
Now, I did want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I've seen recently, but before I do that, I wanted to address something with you because we talk about a lot of shows, obviously.
Yes.
And we do get to see a good deal of a lot of things, and we review some stuff. You know, the question arises, why do we review what we do and there are other stuff that we don't? We talk about She-Hulk and Walking Dead, but why aren't we talking about any of the Star Wars shows? Andor, The Mandalorian, why don't we talk about the new cyberpunk anime that's on Netflix? Why aren't we discussing House of the Dragon? Why aren't we talking about the Rings of Power? Why aren't we talking about Star Trek, Lower Decks? There's like a ton of that stuff out there.
That's why.
Yeah.
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
There's so much.
There is so much stuff. And it just made me think about the fact that back when I started this podcast, I figured we can talk about everything that's out there because there's not an awful lot. And yeah, I think when we started out, there was a few things that were interesting. But right now, we are really suffering from geek bloat. There is so much stuff out there. And it's really difficult to watch everything.
It's impossible.
Unless this would be our full-time job.
Oh, gosh.
And I know if I were to ask you, it's like, we need to cover everything, so you need to watch everything. I think you would look at me like I was an idiot and quit.
Like, maybe I could listen to it while I'm typing at work, but I won't be able to watch it.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, after that, I would get upset and quit because I'd be mad at you because obviously I had been replaced by a clone that was evil or stupid and you didn't notice and you still thought it was me. And I'd be insulted by that and I'd quit. But
well, it'd be like I would force you, like, you have to watch House of Dragon so we can talk about House of Dragon. Or,
yeah, there's just
there's too much.
There is so much stuff. And the thing about it is opinions do vary of what's the good stuff and what's not so good. Mm-hmm. And we probably wouldn't even agree with each other 100% on what's
worthy to watch, what's not worthy to watch.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes, especially when we're dealing with a TV series, that could change over time because you ask people about The Walking Dead. Is it a good show? Depending
what they started off, and then they killed Glenn, and then
exactly, and the same thing with Game of Thrones or whatever. Uh-huh. We would have What the Dead, and we talk about The Walking Dead. When it first came out, there wasn't other zombie shows out there. If you like the zombie shows, that was it.
It was the first zombie TV show. We had vampire TV shows. We had Buffy and Angel and Forever Nights, and there were lots of vampire shows. Oh, heck, vampire soap operas, Dark Shadows. And this was the first zombie TV show, so it was really groundbreaking, and it was important. And not to say that it's still not important, because they do tell good stories. At the time, it was just, we got to talk about this. Mm-hmm. And kind of like Stranger Things was groundbreaking. And because it was able to draw on that nostalgia from everything, and the Stephen King and the E.T. and it was very
When you look at Walking Dead now, look at all the spin-offs. At this point.
Yep. And the spoofs, World War Z.
all the stuff that's adjacent. And if this were just a Walking Dead podcast, we'd be spending 2 hours a week doing these podcasts because there's so many shows out there now just in the Walking Dead universe that it's almost impossible to keep up with everything. And
like on our Facebook page, our friend Greg, we've done plays with him. He commented he liked your review of Moon Age Daydream, and I think that was the first. I was like, I didn't even know Greg listened to us. That kind of thing. Being able to reach everyone and every now and then have something that someone wants to listen to and someone wants to hear about. Maybe someone doesn't want to hear about Walking Dead, but they want to hear about David Bowie. Let's talk about David Bowie.
Yeah, but ultimately, at this point, there's just so much material out there. You can't watch it all, even if it's good. And so we wind up having to pick and choose. And
sometimes reviewing the bad stuff is fun, just like you with the Munsters. It's fun reviewing the bad stuff. It's
sometimes, But let me tell you what I've been enjoying so far. I have been enjoying Rick and Morty. It's still messed up.
Yeah.
We are... And this is so crazy for me to say this, but strangely enough, and not going into any spoilers, this is like the third episode this season that incest plays a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know why incest is the thing that they're leaning into.
Okay.
Get the portal gun back working so we don't have to deal with this again. It's funny, but it's messed up.
I remember either last season or the season before, the giant space incest baby.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that was the beginning of it, and they've continued that motif.
Yeah, but yes, it's nihilistically fun. So I've been enjoying that.
Yeah.
I did get to see the first 2 episodes of The Walking Dead.
There were 2? See, I didn't even know there were 2.
There is, because I got AMC Plus.
Oh, okay, because I have Amazon Prime and AMC is on there. But it's only last season's.
Right.
Yeah. So I haven't seen the new ones yet.
Right. So,
how do you feel?
I can see where they're starting to wind some stuff down. Again, I'm not going to go into any kind of spoilers, but they are definitely leaning into the fact that this is going to be the last of Walking Dead, the main show, because they're starting each episode with a little montage. And they are definitely building up to something huge to the end. But I remember an article with Angela Kane, who's a producer of The Walking Dead, and she was really surprised about the fact that they announced a lot of these shows and who was going to be in them, because obviously if you're building up to a big climax, I mean, you've given some of the characters plot armor.
Right. Obviously, they're going to...
Yeah, they're going to be...
Unless it's a prequel series, but it's not going to be.
Yeah, if you know you've got this show that's a spinoff, Daryl Dixon is in it, and the name of the show is The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. That's some serious plot armor, unless they're completely lying about it, but obviously they're not. But Angela Kang, a little bit upset of the fact that they're taking some of the steam away from their finale, but then again, that's what happens when it's like, this thing's going away, who cares, really? We really want to promote this new thing.
Right, yes. Backdoor pilots.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like.
Some people are probably going to die at the end, but there's
not these people.
Not these people, for sure. So I've been enjoying that, and I saw the first 2 episodes of Interview with a Vampire.
I saw the first episode.
Yes.
I had forgotten about it. Oh, yes, that is on AMC, so I did see the first episode.
Yes, I have seen it. Wow. Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you this. Many, many years ago, when I graduated from high school, and had it in my mind that I wanted to be a fundamentalist Baptist preacher, and I went to seminary and lasted a year and a half and then vacated. That last semester, there was a gentleman who, well, we can say was a bad influence on me.
Okay.
Who introduced me to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I obviously didn't watch the movie because that wasn't going to be a possibility, because you can't watch movies there. But he would give me rides to church, and we would listen to the soundtrack in his car. So we had the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and he introduced me to Interview with a Vampire and The Vampire Lestat. Yep. And so he had the books, he loaned them out to me, and I read them. That story is a big part of my life, because it was a part of a moment of transformation for me. It helped remind me who I was, basically. That I was the guy that liked reading books, who liked going to the library, who liked the spooky stuff. And for a few years, I had forgotten that. And Anne Rice reminded me again.
Excellent.
And so it led me into sin.
So as someone who has read the book, seen the original movie, and now you're seeing this adaptation, Because me personally, I look at it as John Carpenter's The Thing or Cronenberg's The Fly as a really good new telling of this story. How do you feel about it?
I am enamored with it. I think it's fantastic. I love the fact that they've brought a lot of modern issues into this. And yes, there are changes from the book, which Anne Rice, executive producer, of course she's no longer with us, but there were a lot of things that I'm sure she wanted to put into the book that at the time might not have flown.
Yeah.
But it was certainly a subtext.
Hinted at.
Yeah.
Yes.
With Lestat and Louis making a family, there was a subtext that they have made more blatant in the show itself, which I like. I get some people might not like that. I understand that. That's fine. But I really love what they're doing with this story. The changes for me, I feel, are still in the spirit of the novel. They bring a lot of the subtext to the fore now, and you can be, I think, in this day and time, you can be a little more straightforward with it. So
yes, definitely. I don't know if you've looked at it or studied about it. They've started calling queer coding, and looking back at old media and how they had to code it. They had to hide it. And it was really started because of the Hays Code. You can't show these things. So, like, you can't show two people in bed, even if they're married, unless they both they have 2 feet on the floor. Those are the kind of things. Then the Hays Code transformed, became lax, and said, you can show queer aspects to a character as long as they're the bad guy.
Right.
And then they said you can be blatant with it as long as they killed themselves at the end. So you had The Children's Hour, you had Ode to Billy Joe. As long as they killed themselves at the end and they showed that was sinful, and if you were that way, you were gonna pay for your sins. And so there's lots of movies where they hint at it, and I can really see that. And I think Interview with the Vampire was definitely in one of those videos on YouTube talking about, here are 2 men and they want to have a family, so how do they do it? It even goes back to Carmilla. I think you've definitely talked about Carmilla as one of that, and Frankenstein, that he leaves his wife on their honeymoon so that he can go create life with his college buddy. Those are the kinds of things that they, you really hinted at. So this is, I'm sure that's what she wanted to show. Oh, Bewitched was a big one, and even Elizabeth Montgomery talked about it before she passed away, that it was an allegory for queer culture. They had to stay in the broom closet. You can't share your gifts because the humans don't understand it. The mortals don't understand it. Right. And then they'll burn you at the stake if you do. It was about keeping secrets and stuff, and you had to keep these things on the down low, be quiet, or you'll lose your life, basically. Yeah.
So for me, I don't look at a lot of that in the show as basically rewriting characters to be a different way. I think in a real sense, it's taking subtext and bringing it out, because we're now in a world where that's acceptable, and so I certainly don't have a problem with that.
Even the interrace.
Yeah.
And I love it. He says there are things that you can be in New Orleans. You could be a rich black man, but you could not be a rich black gay man. And that's. And the scenery, the costumes, it's just a beautiful. The wedding was gorgeous and heart-wrenching, and that such good acting when he's in the confessional, and he's got to be dodging Emmys. They're going to be throwing him at his head. It was so beautiful. And
and I can't wait.
Is fantastic.
I cannot wait for you to see the second
one. Oh,
they just build onto it, and of course, what Louis is starting to go through. And the nice thing about this is that his conversion and having to learn what it means to be a vampire. In the novel, they didn't spend a lot of time on. In the TV show, they are.
Okay. And I have enjoyed the way they've done The Interviewer. That they did talk 30-some years ago.
Yeah.
And now he came back. Now he's ready to tell the story. And I thought that was really fun.
And as his interactions with Louis continue and grow, and you'll definitely see this in the second episode, their dynamic working with each other is incredible, and it adds to the story. It's not just like it's a frame story.
Right.
Their interactions are great.
Okay.
And they're just getting better.
All right. I am very excited about
it. But we got to end with She-Hulk.
Oh my gosh, Brian! This is going to be everyone's favorite episode of everything. Oh, I love it so much.
I would say that for people who love the show, yes, this has got to be their favorite episode.
Yes.
For people who hate this show, oh my God, they're really going to hate this one.
Oh, just in that courtroom, you know who's coming through that door, and you're just waiting for it, and you're so excited about it.
And Daredevil, holy cow.
Right, while they're fighting and they're talking and they're doing legal advice while they're fighting. And she says, now is not the time for stealth, and he only knows stealth. Oh, it was good.
And we still got a hallway fight scene because it's Daredevil.
Because it's Daredevil.
It's Daredevil, we got to get the hallway fight scene. And we also have to talk about the one scene toward the end between Jennifer and Matt Murdock. That one scene.
Best walk of shame
ever. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Yes.
But then we get that ending. Oh, geez.
Which we knew was coming. And then even she said, well, is this where I'm going to get fridged, or is there going to be another Hulk? And
Red Hulk. He said.
Red Hulk.
Yeah. Jennifer.
She really hulked out.
She really hulked out.
Yep.
And the fact that we got damage control just happened to show up, you know that in that situation they thought, oh, a Hulk is showing up. Let's be prepped. So to how fast they wound up showing up, they were waiting.
They got tipped off, or yes.
In a real sense, Jennifer got fridged, but we've only got one episode left.
Yes.
And again, I find myself in the same situation with a lot of these Marvel shows. It's like, how in the hell are you going to wrap all of this stuff up in one episode? Especially now, it's a 30-minute episode, unless we're going to get an extended episode. Because they're going to arrest her, first of all.
Right.
We got to deal with the possibility of what's going on with
Are they going to make her wear an inhibitor?
Yeah, are we going to wind up with that? Are we going to have some sort of monster fight at the end? What have they done with her blood? All of that stuff. But yeah, that entire scene, it's like, God, you can't lose your cool. But that situation, how do you not?
Right?
It was an invasion of privacy at the worst level and revenge porn on top of that. Right. It was insane. I was just flabbergasted by the whole thing. It went from 0 to 60 in no time at all. And it was hard to watch. It really was. And it's like, how should she have reacted differently? It's hard to say. That was an unattainable situation. I mean, your parents are out in the audience, for Pete's sake. It's also infuriating because of the double standard. Tony Stark, he was a playboy, and no one gave him grief about that.
Nope.
But it's like, oh my God, Jennifer Walters
has sex. That's it.
Yeah. And it was a horrible situation. It smacked a little bit too real because revenge porn is a damn thing. And so it got ugly quick, and it was really hard to watch. It really was.
Yeah.
So what are they going to do next?
We shall see.
Yeah, but before we end this,
I
got to mention two things. Tomorrow, we get Werewolf by Night, the movie from Disney+, their horror movie, Marvel movie.
Okay.
And we also get the remake of Hellraiser.
Oh, that's tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah, that's tomorrow, too.
Wow.
So with all the great stuff that's out there, and of course we can't watch it all, I'm definitely going to watch those two
things. Try to watch
things.
as much as we can.
Yes.
We promise you.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to talk about those next week for sure. But with that said, we come to the end of episode 167. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.